Okay, we've now officially started recording this episode of the Midweek Howl. I'm Shane. I'm with the Ozark Howler. We're recording this May 1st, and here in Ohio on May 1st, it's like it's November 29th, the weather. So
Is that cold?
Oh, it sucks. It snowed today. I wore shorts to work today on the mail route, and it started snowing. I had to sit in the truck for a little bit.
Serious?
Yeah. It was terrible.
Oh, I was going to play it was like 59 earlier, and I thought it was chilly here.
No, it was rainy, snowy. It's Monday at the post office. All the things that make being a mailman extra special, you know. But I see the weather's crazy all over the United States, flooding and tornadoes and just a lot of crazy stuff. So I guess I should be glad for it's just a little bit cold.
Yes, you probably should, maybe.
Yeah. So, but okay. So I want to start this episode off. We have a loyal listener. Loyal listener. We have a loyal listener.
We have a loyal. Okay.
Super loyal. We have many loyal listeners, but this is a loyal listener. She happens to be a mom of a very good friend of mine. And she listens to all the episodes, loves them. She especially loves the Howler episodes. She thinks you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. She and her husband, as they retired, they live now in Greenville, South Carolina.
Right.
Which I hear is a beautiful place. I'm hoping. I just, in fact, told Christy, I said, when we go down to visit my daughter, we're going to try to swing by and see them this summer. Okay. But she wanted me to tell you, she's taking a special forces class at Furman University with Green Beret instructors, apparently.
Yep. Okay.
So while I don't really know what that would entail, I thought maybe you would have some solid insight, maybe even some insider information we could pass on to Marion, since she might be that she could go and impress the people there.
They're Green Berets that can't be impressed.
Okay, that's it. Sorry, Marion, you're out. They can't be impressed.
Unfortunately, they are in some ways polar opposite of the other direct action combat troops, the Navy SEALs.
Okay.
Because normally when I don't want to categories, there's a lot of Navy SEALs out there with talk shows, with books, and tridents on all their clothes, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them in Congress. The Green Berets traditionally have been known as the quiet professionals, okay, or the gray man. They are not known for their bravado.
Interesting.
And they're more of a full force multiplier. You know, back in the old days, the thing that you know, when you hear about Navy SEALs getting washed out because of Hell Week or laying in the you know, everybody sees the movies where they're laying in the surf. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the old days, the Green Berets, what washed them out was their aptitude. You had to. I'm trying to remember. They had a college requirement early on. You had to be on your second enlistment, so you couldn't just join and apply for SEAL training like you can at the Navy. You had to have already done 4 years in generally a combat MOS, like an infantry or some kind of a job like that. So, but the Green Berets that did come out of the program were seasoned already, and see, they have an educational background. I do, we do, you do. So they go and teach an indigenous population to uprise against their government and stuff like that, right? So They're not going in so much to kill Osama bin Laden as they are to go in there and recruit, 15 or 20 dudes or maybe a whole city eventually to overthrow the government.
Interesting. So they're doing it more behind the scenes than in front of the scenes combat wise.
Well, they are probably the number one killers in the military, without a doubt. The A-team being Delta Force.
But the blood's not all in their hands.
What they're trying to do is, they go in. If you've seen 13 Strong, right?
Yeah.
12 Strong. So those guys went into Afghanistan and linked up with the local warlord, and those 12 brought along 100 natives, that sort of thing, as opposed to sneaking in and doing it by themselves with a giant quick reaction force behind them.
So it seems to me like Marion, she's very cunning and smart. Okay?
Well, I'm trying to figure out what kind of class is it. What are they teaching?
I don't know. She didn't
the
really.
History of them.
She didn't really
needs to watch the John Wayne movie, Green Berets. That's where I learned everything I know.
That's where you learned everything you know. Like I know Marion's a big pickleballer. Okay, so I can see that she'd sit back, survey the situation, and then probably slice you and dice you to pieces on the pickleball court, much the same way she's the Green Beret of pickleballers.
I don't even know how to play pickleball.
I don't either. And
I thought I looked at something the other day. Maybe it was cricket. I was watching something. Is it cricket where they bounce it off the ground?
Like what they got where
like
the matches last forever. It's like a wicket and the stick. And
okay, pickleball is a racket or paddle sport where two players. So pickleball looks like it's almost like tennis with a racquetball. Maybe
that's what it sounds like. It sounds like something I couldn't do.
She must be in great shape. She's still in great shape.
Oh yeah, she's in good shape. She's in her. Well, I don't want to say her age. She's old enough to have been retired for a while. so
she's a good money manager. That could have been us. Oh yeah.
But I'd never be able to beat her in pickleball. I can tell you that.
Half the cricket stuff I see is must be popular in India.
Yes, cricket is a big.
But isn't it what they bounce it off the ground?
Yeah.
That looks crazy hard. Yes.
Yeah, but like some of those cricket matches last like forever, and I don't even understand. I mean,
do they have a pitch clock like the MLB?
I don't. Apparently not. I mean, I don't know. I just remember reading stuff about the cricket matches lasting days or something, and I don't even know what a match consists of.
What are you talking about? Days?
Like a day, like 24 hours.
Oh, come on! Like they restart it the next day, or they run all night?
My God, I'm going to look just because you said, oh, now they got cricket. Well, let me just see. I'm going to look up longest cricket match. I'm sure it was days. Right here. The longest cricket match in history went on for an incredible 12 days.
And where was that at?
And it ended without a winner. The test match between England and South Africa took place in 1939.
That's probably because half the time they're waiting for the lights to come back on.
Beginning
South Africa's a tough neighborhood nowadays.
It continued for 43 hours and 16 minutes. The match saw a total of 5,447 balls bowled. So that's what it's called, bowled. You bowl the balls. And 1,981 runs.
What's the fastest pitch on there? Because I think it's like super fast, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't even. South Africa.
I mean, I did 3 baseball games at a tournament on Saturday, and I'm telling you, after 12 hours of being in the wind at a baseball tournament, I was done for. So God bless those guys.
Is there a time limit in cricket? 75-minute time limits. I don't even understand. They might as well be. Bowling teams are forced to complete their 20 overs, which I don't even know what an over is in this, within 75 minutes.
See, that's why those games can't. That's why those games can't make it in America, right? I know we have some European listeners, certainly some British listeners, and not now, but 50, 60, 75 years ago, when the sun wasn't sitting on the British Empire, most Americans could not grasp the complication of those games. I'm just going to leave it at that.
No.
I mean, if you got to think that hard to explain it to me, you know what I mean? What would a coal miner in Mingo County, West Virginia do? We're going to go out here and play baseball, or we're going to go play cricket, squash. What was the other one?
Badminton.
No, what would you
say? Croquet.
Any of them. They would say, we're going to die of black lung before this game is over.
True.
I mean, Jesus.
True. I'm looking at stuff where they're scoring 800 runs in a day.
And
I don't even get it.
you're a sports guy.
I don't even get it. I have no, and it's terrible. I mean, I'm sure maybe if I looked at it, but it just boggled my mind right now to even understand. So I think what happens
I can feel it through my headphones.
That's why I think what happens is you get up there, and maybe the skill is that you never get out, or what we would call out, and you just keep hitting the thing and it keeps going. I mean,
it sounds way too complicated for my ancestors.
Yes, I agree. And I enjoy baseball. My grandpa was a great baseball player, and I don't even know that it would resemble baseball enough to, but maybe that is, man, see, I'm just opening a can of worms. Maybe that's what Abner Doubleday, guy who created baseball, maybe he thought cricket, this stuff's taking too long. Let's make a derivative of it and come up with baseball. Maybe he didn't like curling. He didn't like cricket, and he figured out maybe I can combine some stuff. I don't know. I mean, as a kid, I remember the first time I saw curling.
I was 40 years old the first time I saw it. So I don't know where you grew up at. But what do you mean?
The first time I ever saw curling was every once in a while when the weather was good, we'd be able to get a Canadian channel over the antenna where I lived. And I remember watching this, like, I had no concept of what they were doing, but they were throwing something out there, and I just thought it was the funniest thing ever. These guys out there were with brooms sweeping back and forth. I'm like, what are they doing? But I had no concept. I was probably 10, and it took a while before I, over the years, figured out what it was and the skill it took, to sweep or don't sweep, or, it's kind of like shuffleboard, right? That you play in the bars where you throw that thing down there and try to knock other people's things off. I mean, right? It's just shuffleboard.
I guess. Yeah, I don't know. When somebody said, hey, have you ever watched curling? What they call curling? I said, yeah, all the time when I was in high school. I had to hold her hair while she was puking, right? And they said, no, curling, not hurling. And I said, no, then I don't know what you're talking about. But probably when I lived in Minnesota, because there's no ice in Missouri, really, to think of. Certainly none you could walk out on. I remember the first time when I moved to Minneapolis in the winter of 2002, there was a news report that said the first ice victim of the year. And it was the poor guy that went out to ice fish. You know how they try to get out there early before it's really iced over, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then within a day or two, another guy drowned. And I remember talking to a friend of mine, a coworker who grew up there, and I said, hey, what's the deal with these dudes falling off through the ice? And he goes, well, it happens every year. They want to be the first ones out there. And I said, dude, I can't believe it. And he goes, oh, sure, they got to fall, in a Norwegian accent. Surely they fall through the ice where you're from. And I said, no, they teach us to stay the hell off of it. I never, maybe once every 3 years somebody falls through. But it's a kid. It's not a freaking grown man, 50 years old, going out there with a bucket and a fishing pole. No, they don't go out on that ice.
I don't understand the fascination with sitting on ice and fishing. Like,
well, now to their defense, I've been ice fishing. I do kind of like ice fishing.
But are you sitting out there? I mean, you're covered, like, you got a little stove in there.
Yeah, in an ice house. Yeah. Some guys, I've been in some pretty palatial ice houses. They have the game on. They'll be watching the Vikes play, and yeah. So it's not like you're.
Hey, look, out on the farm, they those guys like to go. They'd like to go up ice fishing, and they started, because my stepdad knows guys. If you tell them they can't do something or ask them if they can try it,
oh yeah,
they do. So they started building some ice shanties, some real ice shanties for people. And somebody bought one, turned it into the ticket booth at the Lake County Fair.
There you go. Yeah, well, some of them get pretty handy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Speaking of that, if you got any customers that can reach out to you, I've got one, maybe two hand augers.
Oh, to cut through the ice.
8 inch. I'm going to give them to whatever listener wants them.
Really?
It's a giveaway. Yep. My two,
go.
they're clam brand, I think, are ice. They're the blue ones, and I think they might be the same size.
You know, we got some Canadian listeners.
That's
and
okay.
They're going to be all over that.
Just tell them, you know what I mean? That they're
oh, yeah.
That's their door prize. I'm going to give them the official because I'm not using them here in the Ozarks. Did you see there was an article I retweeted the other day about they called it the Swedish Death Giveaway was recommended for, I read the British newspaper. So, you know,
the Swedish,
you got to look through this. This is a prism of imagination when I'm telling something. Remember that. Because I'm here in the Ozarks reading a British newspaper, and it said the Swedish giveaway is recommended. And apparently in Sweden, a lot of the older people give away a bunch of this stuff so it doesn't burden the children or grandchildren having to get rid of everything.
This is your version of the Swedish.
It was geared toward, a bunch of old clothes and stuff. And I touched on that because, me and my dad and brothers had to go through my brother when he passed. Now his his really wasn't planned. You know what I mean? So that accumulates with that. I've got so much stuff in my office here. I've got enough room to walk through to my gun safe, to one gun safe, not the other gun safe. And there's enough room for me to walk through here and a dog to lay at my feet. Just one dog. I can't have both of my dogs here. One of them's got to lay outside. And I've decided it looks like a Cabela's truck crashed into a Bass Pro truck, which continued through the side of a Walmart. So
we're going to start doing a Swedish death.
I'm looking right here, and I'm not making this up. I'm going to count them. Hey, I'm going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7 BB guns or air rifles, combinations within 6 feet of me.
Why?
Because I acted like a child into my 50s and I had money. So I bought BB guns. I've got 6 or 8 410s. If people are, I'm going to probably keep them, but I got a samurai sword, 3 bows, 2 crossbows. I got an English longbow here. I probably got at least 150 arrows of different sizes. Just right here in my office.
I don't even have an office.
I'm going to send you a picture. Hey, I'm going to send you a picture of what my office looks like, and I want you to post it on whatever you post. Okay.
All right, I'll put it up tomorrow.
Now this is from my desk looking back. Okay. So
remember.
So weekly, I'm going to give stuff out of
your
office or garage away. Mm-hmm. And this week, the first prize is the
ice auger.
The ice auger, maybe 2. If I can find both of them, you're going to get both of them. Mm-hmm.
All right, and you're going to have to autograph them before you send it.
Okay, yeah, I will. Yes, it's a small price to pay for somebody to take my ice auger.
And I'm gonna write down on this piece of paper. I think I know who will try to claim the ice auger first. So I'm gonna write it down. We'll see if I'm right. I'm gonna tell you, but I know he'll be listening, and I bet he sends me a message first.
Okay. And I've already got the second week's gift right here by my hand. I'm gonna wait. I can't announce it until next week. Mm-hmm.
So stay tuned.
So stay tuned. It is a fishing. There's 2 things, and they are fishing related. I was going to give them away to a one-legged guy I went to high school with, but I haven't seen him, so I'm going to give them to whatever listeners listening.
Oh, now wait a second. A one-legged guy you went to high school with?
He had both legs when I went to high school with him. I was. God, do we want to go down this story? How did we go down this rabbit hole of one-legged? So
last week was wooden legs. This is one leg. So we've already progressed.
So I was going to get into See, now the problem is I can't tell the story without telling what this second week get. Okay, we're going to double them up this week. We're going to have double gifts. This first week is going to be double gifts. I've got 2 sinker molds here. I've got a Depalmer Manufacturing from Renton, Pennsylvania. They are, it's a lead jig mold. It's a lead sinker mold. It goes 3/4 ounce, 1 1/4 ounce, 1 3/4 ounce, 1 1/2 ounce, and 1 5/8 ounce lead sinker mold. And the other one is a big sinker mold. I don't even know how big these things are. They are big, probably
like commercial fishing.
Yes, like 3. The second mold is big. Probably, I don't even know. I could probably weigh them. I'm going to take a picture of them. I don't have a picture of the ice auger. I got a picture of the sinker molds here. So I was going to, when I moved back down here, I kind of told this story when we had the monster fish guy on. When I kind of picked where I live now based on what to do when I retired. I got my message back. I'm going to have to walk out where I got signal to send them to you. Okay. So I was going to go snagging, and you go out there with a big line and big sinker, and you drop it down and you drag around and hope you catch this fish, right? And it's a lot of work, and I really envisioned getting maybe my teenage boys involved, get them away from the computer, and get them into snagging. And it's just a hell. So I started buying equipment because that's what you do. And I got a bunch of new snagging poles, and I got these. So I went out, and I don't remember if COVID had started. I couldn't find any big sinker molds. And then I find out if you find sinkers, they're super expensive, and on and on and on. So what I decided to do is I got on eBay and I bought these sinker molds, and I got a bunch of wheel weights from a garage that my dead brother used to work in, and I'm going to make some wheel weights. So of course I can't melt lead, so I had to give these sinkers to the molds to my father-in-law, who gives molds me half a dozen each one, right? And that was 3 years ago, and I've never went snagging. And fast forward, a friend of mine I went to high school with, we were talking about this guy, let's call him Steve, and my classmate says, well, he lost his leg. I said, no. He said, yeah, I think he lost his leg. And I thought, oh, that's, and I was going to look him up. He was a cop when I was a cop. He was in a different county. And when I was a state trooper, anyway, I'd seen not quite a bit, but quite, some. So fast forward a month or so ago, me and a good friend of mine from high school was eating lunch, and I said something about snagging. He goes, oh man. He said, Steve took us. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah. I said, how did you ever hook up with him? And he said, well, I Googled up fishing guides, and his name popped up, and I thought, surely he can't be the same Steve we went to school with. He said, nope. I called him up, and yep, it's him. And he was a cop. He lost his leg on a motorcycle off duty, so he couldn't be a cop no more. So he I think he had a little bit of money from the death of he was raised by his grandparents. It was kind of one of those checkered pasts that are so common today, but in the 70s and 80s, it was odd. So his grandpa left him a house and a little money and a little place on the lake, and he turned into a professional fishing guide. So he said, whenever I want to go fishing, I just call Steve. Now, when I want to go snagging, he's got the boat, he's got the rods, he's got everything, and he's got a great big, like a sideband sonar screen. You find the big fish on the screen, and within 30 minutes, you're limited out. Which is why I decided not to go, because that's really not sporting. You know what I mean? I thought we would toil for hours reeling and pulling and snagging and reeling and pulling and snagging. And if you did get one, you felt like Atlas holding the world. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, technology has killed that too. So
has ruined fishing, right?
it has ruined the buildup of the trip.
Because
I've got a book called
always a chance
I've
you
got
go
a
fishing
book.
and not catch anything. Right?
I've got a book. Well, I've got a book of the greatest hunting and fishing, not stories ever told. That was one, but it's not that one. It's a different one, and and essentially it's a book about different things. Right? Some of these guys, most of the great stories were in the, from about 1910 to the early 70s, late 60s, right? So you had a transportation, a car or a train or a float plane that could get you out there, but you didn't have a GPS. You didn't have a cell phone. You didn't have anything, right? So guys would save up all their vacation or save up some money and go get in a station wagon and make a trip of going to Canada or one of these places. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was the lead up of going. You know what I mean? It was almost as much fun, or you know what I mean? So anyhow, it's kind of rented for me to be able to just go out there and turn a $3,500 graph on in a $50,000 boat and say, there's the fish are, drop the sinker and we're going to snag them and go to eat. Because, those big fish, you're trying to catch some of them 40, 50, 60, 90 years old, right? And
yeah, it doesn't seem fair. They've eluded everything for that long. And then
yes, it would be like some 22-year-old redheaded vixen that owns a liquor store coming in and poaching me. I mean, it just is not the same, right? So
it's way too easy.
Yes. So it's like killing an elephant. When I was young, I would read about the people that went out and did the again, Great British Empire guys going out on foot and
big game hunting
yeah. Especially, elephants, stuff like that. And through technology and poaching and different things, the big elephants are gone for starters, and the ones that are there, I don't know if I would want to kill a 50-year-old pachyderm. I'd kill the shit out of snakes or warthogs or something like that. But to kill a big old elephant or a rhino just doesn't have it for me.
Well, if this makes you feel any better, did you see the story about the bass fisherman who would have won the tournament in Texas last week? It was $100,000 tournament. He didn't have his fishing license in Texas, so he was disqualified.
Well, he's an idiot. That's his own fault.
Like, I wouldn't even think about that. Like, you'd have to have a fishing license in the state where you're at for a professional tournament. I would think that would be.
Oh my gosh, yes, these game wardens don't screw around, dude.
Even for a professional,
it doesn't matter. They don't mess around. The game wardens are a whole different.
Well, it wasn't the game wardens. It was the people that run in the tournament.
Oh, so then it was a money deal. In that case, it was a money grab. They just wanted to screw the guy, give a reason not to pay him. You know what I mean?
Oh, that would be the worst.
But it was probably in the rule book, wasn't it?
Yeah, he said he didn't fill out everything he needed to online to get his license. He filled out most of it, but he didn't get it all filled out. So that would just be awful.
Well,
oh my gosh.
Bet it won't happen again.
I would hope not. So you haven't run into Steve, the one-legged guy.
I haven't. No, I haven't. I've got a dozen Steve stories, but I'm not going to tell any of them here. Not right now. Maybe, I almost told one a second ago on accident, and I decided not to. The last second.
Okay, I'm going to have to make a note. Let's see. We need Steve. Need to remind you to tell some Steve stories.
No, we give him nickname Cooter. You got to say Cooter stories because that's what we give him a nickname.
Okay, Cooter stories.
Like from the Dukes of Hazzard Cooter.
Dukes of Hazzard? Was he like Cooter?
No, he didn't. I don't know if he knew we called him that behind his back.
Don't even even better.
That's because somebody, I can't say his last name. There was a dude we worked with that mispronounced his name.
Okay. Okay, I got you.
And we were making fun of our coworker because two of us went to high school with him and we knew exactly how to say his name. And then after that, that was our, not necessarily inside joke. He was a canine handler. Okay. And back when law enforcement was aggressive and you thought there was drugs in the car and you needed a canine, you could call him. That was our big thing. Get Cooter's dog, because he was an excellent canine handler. He had an excellent dog, and it caught a lot of people. Now, not necessarily my people, because I was never aggressive. I've still said it many times. I just wasn't that successful in offensive law enforcement, right? Because I believe people have freedoms in this country to drive down the highway, and as long as they're minding their own business, not breaking the law, hauling a machine gun or a load of dope, as long as they didn't get out of line, it's their own business what they got in that car. You know what I mean? I didn't search cars. I didn't. You had to really screw up to suffer my wrath. You know what I mean?
Yes, and which you say that, and I don't know how I'm gonna make this segue, but I saw last month there was a movie coming on Netflix. Is an old one that I've loved since I was a kid, and I couldn't wait for it to come on. So, in fact, when we get done here, I'm going to go and watch it tonight. And they showed a preview of American Graffiti. I'm sure you've seen it, and it's just like you said, aggressive policing. The guy, cop, has Milner, right? The guy driving the car with the McNichols girl and the passenger that's not old enough, underage, right? Isn't that her name? McNichols?
I guess. I don't know.
The girl from Mackenzie, or is it Phillips?
Mackenzie Phillips,
Mackenzie
That's probably
Phillips.
Right.
Yeah. And the cops saying, Milner, we know it was you, but I'm going to let you go this time because I want to catch you in the act and really throw the book at you, because he was drag racing or something like that. I thought, there you go. That's aggressive policing. Going to let him go, even though he knows he's guilty, because he wants to catch him doing something worse. And he's going to be looking at.
Guess what happens is it clogs up. So back to the back. It's hard for me. I was trying to tell my kids this one day. It's hard for me to explain. I mean, I 30 years, right? I started law enforcement 31 years ago. Next month, okay, and to the great feats that I saw grown adult law enforcement officers go to bust a dude with a bag of weed would be I mean, if I made a movie out of some of the shit I saw back in them days, people nowadays would think it was some kind of skit. The National Lampoons decide they're going to come out with something new. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you.
Because it just.
But wasn't that was the focus, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. When I hate to, yes, George H.W. Bush's war on drugs, and yes,
You also had a war on rap lyrics too, I think, right?
That's right. NWA, F the police. Yes. I remember going to my alma mater as a deputy because they have homecoming there, and it's all hands on deck when it's Lincoln's homecoming. Google up Lincoln University, Jefferson City, Missouri. It's a historically black college university. And let's just say the homecoming crowd sometimes can be rather rambunctious, especially back in them days, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would really, you want to talk about American Graffiti. If a guy could sit down and write a screenplay that was a place like that in 1992 or 93, that was at the height of the, dare I say, crack days, right? When you had 19, 20-year-old kids with 5 cars, 2 houses, and $250,000 in their trunk of a 78 Monte Carlo with 20-inch chrome wheels, hydraulics, jacked up 6 feet off the ground, painted, lime green with gold flake on it, with gold wheels, the windows tinted out, and he's wondering why you stopped him, and every cop would be like wasn't Jack Webb just the facts? Was it?
Oh,
you know who I'm talking about?
Joe Friday.
Joe Friday. Yes. Every every manager in law enforcement, half the managers in law enforcement either looked like Colonel Potter back then or Magnum PI. You know what I mean? That's what you had. You were either going to be a Colonel Potter or Magnum PI, you know?
That's quite a
spread.
Let's
throw somebody else in. I'm trying to think of who a good weightlifter is. I can't think of who was the guy, not Lou Ferrigno.
Arnold?
Not quite Arnold. More of a soft weightlifter. You know, they didn't I was in cop with some big dudes, man. Big dudes. So yeah, I mean, you remember the 80s, right? So there was a lot of guys that looked like late 80s, early 90s. They were Brian Bosworth that flunked out of college, and their uncle was a fireman, so they got him on the police department or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't know how else to say it, right? Shit like that. And heaven help you. Heaven help you know what I mean?
If you got on the wrong end of Brian Bosworth.
Yes, because you don't know. You know, I think I've told the story about the first domestic I ever went to, right?
Is this the one where the guy broke the casserole dish on the sidewalk?
The girl, yes. Yes, that's what I'm saying. So,
and he was a football player. The guy was a football player. The son.
Yeah, and the cop I was riding with played with his big brother. And this dude got on the dope, and hey, we're going to take care of you. But at the same time, it's 50-50. I worked with a dude, he's dead now, named Don, and he was the interdictor of the year as a state trooper for a lot of years, right? And when I say interdictor, back in those days, if you get a guy to tell you honest, he'd tell you from about 84 to 96, 7, 8, right? Before New Jersey cracked down on the when they got jacked up over the profiling, right? So in the 80s, he would tell you in the 80s, if you were during the Pablo Escobar times, right? The DEA come in and taught all these guys how to spot these loads of dope. So if you were a Hispanic male between 18 and 30 driving an Olds Delta 88 from Arizona or Florida or one of these places, they were going to find a reason to stop you. That's just the way it was. You know what I mean? So
I believe it. Yeah, I believe it.
And because of that, he would get, when I say tons, he was telling me, we got to talking, and he said, that I was passed over. I was a corporal, and I got passed over for sergeant a half a dozen times. And I said, how is that? Because when I was in college, and then when I was first started law enforcement, this dude was the stud interdictor, and I worked with him in an investigation unit. I said, why did you ever come off the road? And he said, well, he said the wheel spin. So what happened is in your promotional test was part of it's a written test, and the written test is broke down in thirds, right? Need to know, nice to know, and trash. So you get to take his test, and you don't know what's on it. So one thing is you really need to know, and one thing you should know, and one thing is just crap. So that was one portion. Another portion is your captain that was a wheel spin. So I think there was 30 points on the captain, and he had to give somebody 30 and somebody 1, and he can give anybody in between whatever he wanted, right? So, and then your supervisor got to give you some points. Well, he was telling me that his supervisor zeroed him out like 3 years in a row. And I said, why in the hell would he do that? And he said, he told me I didn't write any stop sign tickets. And I said, I beg your pardon? And he said, yeah. And I think his last year on the road was 2000 and no, it was probably 96, 5, 6, 7, 8, something like that. And he said, I seized in a 365-day period, I seized over $2 million in cash, over 2,000 kilos of cocaine, and over 6,000 pounds of marijuana in Cooper and Howard County, Missouri on Interstate 70, right? So that sounds like a hell of a lot of stuff to get off the street, right? But when it came to his promotion, his sergeant said, yeah, but you didn't write any speeding tickets, and you didn't write any stop sign tickets.
But you got all that dope.
Yeah, so you had guys that were just the one of the paths to promotion is just go out there and sit outside I worked with a guy that sit outside a brick. So there was a highway that there was 3 refractories on that made fire brick, National Refractory, AP Green, and something else. And he would sit out there depending on, 3 to 11, 11 to 7, and 7 to 3. He would sit out there at 3, 11, or 7, okay, and right dudes go into a brick plant at 10 miles. Everybody 10 miles an hour got a ticket, and it was a 55 road. He come right off the interstate and then went to a 55 road almost immediately. And I sit out there with him one night, and he was writing this dude a ticket. And I said, Ronnie, it's freaking August. It's 106 degrees still, and they're going to work in a fire kiln. You know what I mean? In a brick plant making fire brick, and you're writing these dudes a ticket for going 66 on 55.
They already hate life. And
yes.
Now they're going to work for the next 8 or 10 hours.
And you know how it is. So, and it was like a big Caprice. I still remember it was a light blue Caprice from the 80s. And there was like 5 dudes in it going to work, with your lunch buckets. You know how they guys used to do that. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, well, you're for the law or you're against it or some bullshit like that. And God bless you. I couldn't do it. If anybody give me halfway excuse whatsoever, I let them off. So, back to this dude, he said when he got passed over the last time, he knew he was going to put in to get off the road and go do something. So he said he's working out there, and he stops a kid, I think from California or Arizona, going to Chicago. And he says he tells right off the bat something's up. The kid's hinky. He's nervous as hell. I don't remember that he didn't own the car. He knew the person owns cars, maybe the last name and not the first name. He got a little screwed up about 3 times in the story. You know what I mean? So Don says he had him back here, and he said, hey, this is the deal, son. I don't know what, I don't really know where you're going, but I know what's going on. So if you just tell me where the dope is, I'll just write you a ticket for it, and you can go home. And the kid goes, do what? Because I guess the kid had told him, because Don had started with small talk. Hey, where you headed? What's going on? And he apparently had just gotten married. And Don said, well, this is the deal. If you just be honest with me and tell me where the dope is. Because he's burnt out, because he did all this work to get all this dope for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And then they're not promoting him because he's not writing enough speeding tickets or stop sign tickets. Right? So he just tells this kid, he says, if you just tell me where the dope is, because if I have to call a dog, I will. And then we'll have to crawl around that car, and if you make us go through all that, I'm going to put you in jail. And he said the kid he hung his head. Don says when he hung his head, I knew I had him. And he said, it's in the trunk. And Don said, well, what is it? And he goes, I don't know. And he goes, well, how much is it? And he said, I don't know. There's Don said he went over there and opened the trunk, and there were 17 pounds of marijuana in there.
Holy smokes. Isn't that a lot?
So 17 pounds of marijuana in 1996 was a shitload. I mean, now they would call it personal use, but I don't know. So true to his word, he gets his ticket book out, and he writes his kid. So the kid says, hey, they were giving him, I don't remember, 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever, to just drive it to this address and walk away from the car. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't really know a lot of times in them situations, you don't know whose dope it is. You don't know whose car, so if you're lucky, you know whose car it is. So that way, if you do get stopped, you can kind of half-ass tell somebody. But so he wrote this ticket out that said possession of marijuana, and then let the guy drive away. Seize the marijuana, let the guy drive away. So a little later, that week or whatever, between the evidence guy and his sergeant, somebody called him and said, hey, I think he said, hey, I got to run this evidence down from that kid for that marijuana possession. And they said, well, how much is it? He said 17 pounds. They go, holy cow, 17 pounds. Didn't you arrest him? And he said, no, I just wrote him a ticket. And his sergeant, the one that didn't get him promoted for the stop sign, he said, what the F are you doing, Don? You're supposed to, how do you know he's ever going to come back for court? 17 pounds. And Don said, well, you're the one that told me just the other day that, drugs weren't that big a deal. Hey, and you know what he said? The kid showed up.
For a speeding ticket?
For the marijuana, 17 pounds of marijuana ticket.
Oh, he just
He just wrote him a ticket. No, because just like a misdemeanor. So you could write a ticket for possession of marijuana, and it was coded. You could either code it as a felony under 35 grams or felony over 35 grams. Mm-hmm. Normally, when it was a felony, you took them to jail and made them bond. Do you understand that process?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, he just wrote possession marijuana over 35. So when they looked at the ticket, they said, well, how much over was he? He said 17 pounds. I said, what? Where's he at? I let him drive back. He just got married and had to get back to his wife.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.